Welcome to this week's almost abstract weekly outdoor news. My name's Rob Yates. I'm one of your hosts, and tonight we've got, are you ready for it? We've got a map if I'm a compass, a kayak if I'm a canoe, a Mors Kochanski if I'm a Ray Mears, that's a far out one, an Admundson if I'm Scott, a North if I'm South. We've got Mr. Mark Hopkins. Hoppy, welcome to their weekly news.
I really want to know, where are you? Are you on the toilet when you come up with these things? Or what are you doing as you build up your little introduction?
No, it involves cognac and the 15 minutes before you come online, before we do this. That's when I do it.
Jeepers, genius, pure genius.
I can pull that shit out of my bottom at any point in time. No worries at all. So, in this week's weekly news, I have absolutely zero idea what we're going to talk about, other than a list in front of me, because Mark's chosen and found all the stuff. Now, at this point in time, I'm sat at my desk wearing a pair of slippers, and I see that the title for number one on this week's list is something about Summit slippers, and now I have this horrible vision of being stood on top of Mount Everest with a pair of furry flip-flops attached to my feet. Hopkins, what the bloody hell are you talking about?
Well, first of all, you can't read because it definitely doesn't say Summit slippers. It says Summit sippers.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? Cheers.
You can tell that you're freezing your ass off in Joburg, that you've got a one mind, but you're so, Summit sippers, you actually quite offend these three human beings because they call themselves the Summit sippers. And these are three boys, young men, who travel around to the most random places and peaks and climb up there before any other hiker has started. And they climb up and they get to the top of whichever hill or mountain they're climbing, and they set up a shop. Have a guess what type of shop they set up at the top.
Oh, it's got to be an off license. A bottle shop. It's a pub.
So they carry up to the top of these mountains a table, chairs. They get dressed into like proper posh waiter outfits. And they sit there with their drinks, and then these hikers who are fully kitted out in all their paraphernalia and are broken after climbing, go around the bed to the top of the summit, and there's these three guys with their gin and tonic bar up, offering free drinks at the top of the summit.
Genius. I can tell you a story about this. Are you ready for a funny story?
I thought you could.
I mean, there's all sorts of times to mix alcohol in the outdoors. When I used to kayak in the European Alps a lot, we used to get off the river and finish with a schnapps because you're in Europe and that seems like a good thing to do. But a few years ago, my dad and my stepmom and I and a few others, my stepsister and her now husband, we climbed Ben Nevis in Scotland, highest mountain in the United Kingdom, on the 21st of June, which is the summer solstice, to go and spend the night on top of the mountain there, sleeping in there's like a refuge shelter at the top of Ben Nevis. And that was the plan. It was horrible. It rained. We even had snow in June that year. I mean, it was disgusting. We're all kitted out. We've got rucksacks, winter stuff. Anyway, at about 9 o'clock at night, somebody trips and falls into the shelter. And it's none of us because we're all there. And it's four Scottish guys in jeans and T-shirts with a case of Tennent's each, who've lager, so 24 big cans of lager each. There's us with all of our like Gore-Tex stuff and down jackets and first aid kits and rucksacks and etc., etc., etc. And four Scottish guys turn up with a case of beer each and then sit there and they're like, oh, do you not have anything? We're like, no. And one of them pipes up, oh, well, I brought a technical standby. Here's a bottle of Bells, and gave us a bottle of Bells to drink.
No way. So I'll tell you my worst drinking on a hike. So this was a five-day hike on the Otter Trail, which is south coast. It's quite hot. We did it and it was warm. It was really, really warm. So wearing my hiking boots for 5 days. And at the end of it, you get to a place called Nature's Valley. And the end of the trail is a pub. So after 5 days, we clamber into this pub. And then I have to take my stinking hiking boot off. And a friend of mine pours a pint of lager into the hiking boot, and I have to neck the pint of lager. It is the worst pint. And you know when you finish a 5-day hike and you're gagging for that really nice cold beer?
That's not it.
And your first flavour is your smelly feet. Anyway, that's my worst drinking on a hike.
So in whitewater kayaking world, they have a thing called booty beers. So a booty is a wetsuit boot that you wear on your foot when you're kayaking. And if you swim out of your kayak on white water for being a numpty and failing to paddle properly, you have a booty beer, which means that your friends pour a bottle of beer into your wetsuit boot and you have to drink it from there. And I don't know if you've ever tried wetsuit boots, but they're particularly unpleasant and usually full of foot rot, athlete's foot, river gravel from the river, etc., etc. And it's quite a big motivation to not swim out of your kayak. I haven't. Now, this next one that we're going to talk about, we've all been following the news, lockdowns, quarantines, social distancing, stay in places, whatever you want to call it. They're all giving it all sorts of fancy names. And then they start to say, oh, it's all right, you can do so-and-so if you are an essential service. And I'm like, that's good. But their definition of essential services is really quite bizarre. So in some places, it's all right to get lots of people into a church or a synagogue or a mosque or something like that, close together, to go and pray. I get it. But it's not all right to go surfing. It's not all right to go and walk on the beach miles from people, especially where we are. And, well, Mark, I mean, is hiking an essential service?
I fundamentally think it should be. I think it's a bloody joke. I've got people here at the moment whose garden company is an essential service. The gardening. So doing your garden and getting a company to come and mow your bloody lawn is an essential service. But getting into the outdoors when there's no bloody other people around. So social distancing when you're hiking is not really a problem. But you're not allowed to go hiking. You're not allowed to camp. I just don't understand the logic behind what actually they use as an essential service. A gardening service. Going surfing. Like surfers in general, in the water, are the most anti-human beings in the world. If you get on someone else's wave, they're going to beat you up. They don't like people in the water. You should encourage people to go surfing because you become an antisocial, long-haired scruffian who wears trousers and down your ankles and shows your boxer shorts off.
I agree. I think that we should go and revisit what's an essential service, even if that's just might is right and we decide to go do it. The same with kayaking. Frankly, you don't get that close to people. I think most things in the outdoors don't need to be an essential service. It just needs to be permitted for you to go out wisely and go and have some fun and stay away from people. However,
talking of which, as I was researching for this, I found, you find an article or a news piece which you look at this person, you go, you are the thickest human being I've ever met in my life.
Is he an advisor to the British Prime Minister?
He could be. Or he could be a South African politician. Can't work out which is worse at the moment. He wrote a full-on article, and I shit you not, the full-on article was entitled, How to Social Distance When You Go Kayaking. That was the title of the article.
This just goes back to all these people need to pay us to write their stuff for them because we actually can give it a good title and some good content and make it amusing and engaging at the same time.
Yeah, just, when you look at something, you go, you honestly writing an article about kayaking and social distance. I just don't, sometimes you don't understand it. It's like, why setting fire to your house is not a good idea. It's that kind of, anyway, I got my high horse about the stupidity of what this guy's wasted my time. The fact I even read the article, I had to slap myself around the face 5 times. It was like self-punishment for even reading the headline.
Oh dear me. Well, and that goes. So listen. It's not just people who do silly things. There's people who are in charge of us, who are in charge of upholding the law, policing all this stuff, who do equally stupid stuff. You know, Division of Wildlife Chief Kendra Wecker is under investigation after the Ohio Department of Natural Resources received an allegation that she was out hunting on private property the other weekend. I mean, surely these people have more sense. You're the person who's like making the laws for the outdoors in Ohio, and then you choose to go break them. I mean,
it just astounds me. So I don't know when we're releasing, but I did an interview with a legend this week or last week, I can't remember now, Kim Walhuta, and he was telling me a story about when he was in Swaziland, and he was the ranger for one of the big game parks there. And he moved on. I said, what was it that made you move on? He goes, when I nearly got arrested for calling out the head of the wildlife protection for coming onto the park and poaching. He goes, that's it. Yeah, the head of the wildlife guy, like in Swaziland, came on and started poaching, and he tried to get them arrested, and they basically made his life miserable. But seriously, what makes people? I'm in like a feral mood at the moment. I really don't like people at the moment. Just letting you know. Sometimes, like I just want to be a dog or an animal, because at least they're not fucking as stupid as we are sometimes. I didn't tell you about this. I nearly got into a fight yesterday at a garage. I ran out of gas, and I went to pick up a 9 kg gas bottle. And there's this idiot filling up his car with another gas bottle, and he gets his receipt and just throws it on the floor. We've had this conversation already. He just threw it on the floor, so I started chirping him. And then, you know, when you're really angry and you really don't like people, and then someone does something stupid like that, you just want to go and punch him. Anyway, violating. People in charge should know better.
Last time I filled my car up with fuel, there was a guy supervising the person who was filling his car up with petrol. And the guy who was doing the supervising, who owned the car, had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth while stood by the petrol pump while somebody's putting petrol into his car. Yeah, no intelligence. Anyway, interesting
another good one. Talk just one more. Just entertain me for 2 seconds. I don't agree with what I did, but I was on the phone as I drove into a petrol station, and it was just a conversation. I just didn't put the phone down. I should have. But anyway, the supervisor came up, tapped on my window, and I looked up, and he told me to turn my phone off as he was on the conversation on his phone. Anyway, only in Africa.
Only in Africa. That's it. TIA. This is Africa. So back onto outdoor stuff before we get completely sidetracked to our week. Mark, we take all sorts of interesting and uninteresting, useful and unuseful things on a trip with us. What is it that we should be thinking about taking on a trip? What's the advice from Outside Magazine? What do you take on your trips?
Well, the reason I thought about this one is you've been teasing me all week, and you sent me another flipping annoying photo today of your new little toy that you've been playing around. It's your tarp, which looked pretty cool, and your daughter was loving life lying underneath it. So I saw this article, and I thought it'd be an interesting thing to see. To be honest, I didn't actually read the article. I just like the title. So I've got no idea what they suggested to bring with them, but I'm pretty sure it will say a tent, some sleeping bags, a torch, probably something to cook some food on, and probably 4 wheels and some fuel. So I don't think it's rocket science. But I thought it'd be much more interesting for you and I to share some of the random shit that either we've brought with us on trips or we've seen other people bring.
So once upon a time, I led a canoe trip, a 8-day canoe expedition, like canoe camping trip in Scotland, where you can go and link together 3 lochs or big lakes and a bit of coast as well into an 8-day trip without crossing any roads or anything like that. And I watched these two guys. Their names were Jeff and Jeff. They're actually those real names. So Jeff Tyndall and your mate Jeff, if you're watching, hello. And I'm like, their canoes sat really, really low in the water. What on earth is going on? This goes back to our sippers conversation, our slippers conversation. We get to the first campsite that night, and these guys have brought with them a case of cider, 24 cans of cider for every night of the trip, and that's why their canoe was so low in the water. So I have to be honest, in terms of stuff that I take on a trip with me, I have a habit of having a very large collection of sharp things with me, mostly knives. I seem to like have a knife for every single purpose you could possibly imagine. You know, a big ass manly sheath knife on my belt and a little pocket knife in my pocket and a cooking knife and a carving knife. And I don't know. And so I normally have a lot of sharp things. In fact, I went on a trip with a guy called Jed Yarnold once, just the two of us. And on the second night, well, I'm like, oh, you've got another new knife out. And we went through our knives to find out between us we had 21 knives.
That is a proper over. Who are you going to try and fight that night? You're going to defend yourself from everything.
Yeah, from all the bears in England.
Exactly.
So what is it that you take, or what have you seen that people take that you think is either great, amazing, or completely crap?
My best one I took recently was I was going on a trip camping. It was going to be about 40 degrees at night, centigrade. So I was a bit worried about it. So I researched about building an air conditioning unit into my rooftop tent, and that seemed quite a lot of hard work. So actually, I don't know if you can see it, but this little puppy was the best thing I brought, which was a USB fan that I mounted to the top of my roof, charged it during the day, and it lasted 6 hours at full blast. So, and then you put those little water squirters. So I actually created my own air conditioning unit in my tent. That was a big tip. But I find, and you've been to these campsites where people go on holiday and they bring a satellite dish. I never understand it. You're going into the bush and you're sitting there with your satellite dish. Why not? Why just stay at home? If TV's that important to you, stay at home, camp in your garden with your satellite dish. You don't need to go and clog up the road, take all the best pictures, be fat and sit there scratching your ass with your satellite dish.
I remember the first time that I camped on a campsite in the USA. It was in Oregon. Where was it? Pacific City, maybe, in Oregon. And I got there with my little tent and the car and whatever else to this campsite to find that they didn't really have pitches for tents. Or they did. They were absolutely ginormous because everybody else's definition of camping was the world's largest RVs. And when I say mobile home, don't think European, think large truck or large lorry with a house on the back of it that you drive around. And that was that. And they were all sat outside with fires burning and sat there with their s'mores and their marshmallows and whatever else and their beers. And then in the evening, they went and climbed into their central heated, air-conditioned, hot running water house. And that was their definition of camping. And that absolutely blew my mind. It's for me, when I go away, it's about leaving all of that homely stuff behind and going and not having music, not having a TV, I was saying not having an endless supply of booze, but I don't have an endless supply of booze at the moment because they've shut all the bloody bottle shops. It's about making do with all that, not having all that shiny stuff. I don't know. I tell you what, I'd love to know in the comments section for this Facebook Live and this episode is I'd like to know what other people take when they go camping. What's your can't do without must-have item? Crystal says she always has her old axe, even though it's as dull as butter.
That is a very cool thing. An axe and a fire starter, that's really all you need. That's what Ed Stafford said as well, by the way.
Check you out, Mr. Ed Stafford follower. Wow. Yes.
He's got a new series on Discovery at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. It's quite cool.
He's got
failed the last.
Go on. Oh, we've lost him.
This one episode. Can you hear me now?
Just about.
gets dropped in these random places for like points. He did Mongolia, he failed that one, and then he did one in Siberia as well, where he nearly lost a toe and cried.
Jeepers. Anyway, so let us know what it is that you take on your
Soft.
trips. We'd love to hear what your number one don't leave home without item is. And as we move on, Mark, you have chosen this week's picture of the week from the Uyghur Outdoors Tribe. If you want to go join the Uyghur Outdoors Tribe, it's completely free of charge. It's an amazing place full of 15,000 other people who are passionate about the outdoors, getting out more and loving life. Mark, what's the picture this week that you've chosen?
So I went sentimental, I'm afraid. This is selfishly sentimental. So recently my sister got really, really sick and was in hospital for a week and is recovering. And she has been since she left school at 16, is worked in horses. And I was flicking through and I just saw the most peaceful video from Nancy Floor Rands called Life Between Ears. And it was just a real cool slow-mo of a horse ride through the bush. And it just looked very, very peaceful, very cool, very chilled. And it reminded me of my sister. So that was this week's, I think, again, a lot of our outdoor stuff is done on 2 feet or with your bum sat down in a kayak. And it was just very, very cool to have something slightly different in the tribe this week and for someone to be on horseback, which is also a massive part of the outdoors. So Nancy gets the Pick of the Week award.
Awesome. And seamlessly.
And how cool is that, though? Life Between Ears. I think that's quite a cool little headline. So she can join our club. She can come be part of our crew of rewriting headlines that are shit.
I agree. Nancy, if you're watching this, I'm even going to try and tag her in.
Got a job.
At Nancy, what is it?
Floor Rands, R-A-N-S.
There we go. I've just tagged Nancy in. Hopefully she can see it. She'll come and join us. Now, this seamlessly takes us from Life Between Ears into a website that I've just shared in the comments of this week's Facebook Live, or wait, for those of you who are on Facebook Live, which is a Daily Mail, which is a newspaper in the UK. They've just pieced together, it must be like a drop the dead donkey type week with them, where they don't have any great news, they're just going to make shit up. Where they've pieced together the Comedy Wildlife Awards, which I've just popped into the comments of the Facebook Live. This is a collection of some of the, well, not the funniest I've seen, but definitely some of the best funny wildlife photos that I've ever seen, including hippos laughing at each other, which I just think is comedy genius.
These are actually, you mock it. This is actually a real life awards ceremony. This is something that gets done on an annual basis, and there's a winner for the best comedy wildlife photo of the year.
Well,
so
they get £2,000.
The bear one. Exactly. I'm telling you, this is a proper award. Did you see that? There's quite a cool one of these two, I think they're deer, can't quite remember, like blowing raspberries at each other. That was quite cool. My favourite one is the owl. Go and check out the owl. You know when you've literally just, someone said something, like that person who wrote the article about kayaking and social distancing, which is so stupid and dumb that you give them the look of, you are the thickest human being I've ever met in my life and you're wasting my time. You know that look?
Yeah.
That owl, and off that look is like the best fuck you would look. I just love it. It literally is just like, just you tit. It's a brilliant photo.
He's
so,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to wink at you so that you can't get the perfect picture of me.
Yeah, exactly. He literally is. He's that grumpy old man who's just doing everything he can to piss other people off. You know, he's the one who he farts and doesn't even care if he farts in public. You know, he's just like going, yeah, it stinks, it's me, deal with it. He's one of those kind of people. I love that photo. That's my favourite one.
He wanders around the pub asking for somebody to pull his finger so that he can fart afterwards.
Yes.
Go on, pull it. I've actually been trying to train Caitlin, my daughter, to do that, and my wife keeps telling her not to, which is disappointing because I think that would be comical. But there we go. So go check out in the description below or in the comments on Facebook the weirdest comedy wildlife photographs of the week. And that brings my map if I'm a compass, kayak if I'm a canoe, Mors Kachansky if I'm Ray Mears, Admonson if I'm Scott, or North if I'm South, Mr. Mark Hopkins and I, to the end of this almost abstract weekly news. Mark, is there anything you'd like people to go do now other than subscribe to our YouTube channel?
I quite like to go and have a look at that owl and have as much enjoyment as I have out that photo, and also send us a complaint about this episode.
Yes, awesome. Send us a complaint. Was it too short, too long, too PC, not PC enough? Did Mark drop enough F-bombs, or did he not drop? Is there too few or too many? We want to hear your views on our news. That was genius. We want to hear your views on our news.
See, we should write this stuff. We should do this for a job, you know? I think our titles are just flowing out of us at the moment.
I think you'll find that most people do just pay me to screw around, enjoying myself for a job most of the time. Generally. In fact, you were there today when I told a client in the finance services industry in South Africa that they had the most broken sales structure of any industry on planet Earth.
I know, and no one even pushed back. I was highly disappointed by that.
I know. I thought, I'm going to chuck a hand grenade in there, and when it explodes, they might react. And they went, it was almost like they're like, yeah, I think we agree. Anyway, enough about that other stuff. We're going to go get busy. We've got some interesting stuff coming your way soon. Mostly, we're hoping we get to go in the outdoors soon, and we may well have to pre-record a Wednesday evening news, because the moment that Mark and I are set free from lockdown and can go into the mountains, the forests, or anything else and go hiking, we are out of here to go and do what we love as opposed to just talking about it.
Could be in the next few days.
Never know your luck. Never know your luck. Right, well, it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from I Get Outdoors.
Oh, you get outdoors.
I get outdoors.
You get outdoors. We get outdoors. We'll get it right one day. All right, amazing people. Stay awesome. Leave us comments. We'll see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.